Thank you very much to all of our four speakers this afternoon. Fascinating insights from all of them. And I think just listening across all four presentations, it really stood out to me that, you know, those elements of creativity, uniqueness, authenticity very much remain at the core of what our consumers of agritourism are looking like. But I really heard that message about thinking wider, I suppose, than just the food. And it's about those, you know, sort of artisan processes, the crafts that come out of that, the skincare, and the storytelling that's so deeply rooted. And I think one of the key messages I heard in that is that whether that's about matching your identity and your value set of your customer and responding to that, or whether it's about bringing them deeper into that connection and engagement with your product and your story and your history, that ultimately translates through to consumer spend, which ultimately creates opportunities for all of us to think about how we deepen that connection with our customer, but also in terms of new business ventures, it feels like there's lots more opportunities out there for people to play on that. So we'll open the floor up for questions. We've got a good 10 minutes or so before we finish up at 1:15. We've got a roving mic with Lindsay and Leckie, I think, at the back. We've got a question down here, a couple down here in the middle. If you could just say your name and where you're from, that would be helpful. And if there is a particular person you want to direct your question to.
Is this on? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hiya, I'm Isabel. I'm based in Spain. And this question is mainly for Jillian. When you were starting to create the kind of more bespoke, unique agritourism experiences, what would have been like the most, looking back, what would have been the most helpful for you in getting started? Like what would that have looked like, or was it just something you had to learn by doing?
I think just giving yourself the space to be creative and really think outside the box, and don't sort of shoehorn yourself into what the convention is, and, you know, just think to yourself, you know, there's clearly a market for what we're doing. The only limitations are the usual things. It's sort of cash flow, capex for visitor infrastructure to make the place safe and suitable to welcome visitors. But I think the key is just allow the innovation to flow. Allow yourself to be creative and think big. And you know, I never thought when we started out in farming that we would be hosting this enormous festival with people from all over the world visiting us, because we started by putting a knitted jumper on a goat, you know. So you have to allow yourself just to really be creative and innovative and perfect that storytelling, and the people will come if you've got something unique and interesting for them to find. So yeah, that would be my advice.
Thanks, Jillian. I think
Sorry.
we had another.
Could I ask a follow-up
Yeah.
question to that really fast? Sorry. Other than obviously they've developed in size, and I'm sure that there's like structure that goes along with that, but those experiences, how have they developed from initiation to now in terms of how you deliver them? And obviously there's technical aspects of organizing when they're so large now, but would you say they've changed much?
Yeah, I think at the heart of everything is the marketing. Having consistently good marketing, bringing in people that can help with that if you're not comfortable doing it yourself, and building that community. I mean, this year we ran the knitting competition again that triggered off our Goats and Coats Festival, and we've seen a markedly different change in the community. It was much more international because of the obviously the use of social media, Instagram. The world's a much smaller place. So I think doing the consistent marketing and planning well ahead for these events, and the key is building the community, and the people will come, but you have to keep providing them with updates of your farm and your story, and they have to feel like they're part of that bigger picture, because we are part of pioneering something really new, creating cashmere in Scotland for the first time in 40 odd years. And once people really buy into what you're doing, they'll support you and come with you. And as I say, you've got that legacy customer.
And then you're keeping them on the journey, aren't you?
Exactly.
Brilliant. Thanks, Jillian. Okay.
Hi, I'm Alice. I'm just about to move to Rannoch, which, for those of you that may not know it, it's a very rural, off the beaten track, end of the road village and community just off the A9, but not very well known. I'm looking at setting up a rural sort of community-focused tourism venture. But given the fact that it is so off the beaten track, we're kind of looking at the different markets that it will appeal to. This is specifically, I guess, for something you had said, Jillian, around your more kind of luxury, bespoke and curated experiences that you offer. Do you see that, is there a domestic market for that, or is that typically more in the international visitor?
From our experience, it has been more that international visitor. I mean, we've found that our demographic tends to be North Americans, but we're still relatively new on the scene, and we expect to expand more into the Asian markets as well. But it depends on what you end up doing, what your niche is. We found that people, fibre enthusiasts that are based domestically compared to internationally, if they're really into that thing that you're offering, they'll provide that added value at your tour. So it really depends on what you decide to focus on as part of your experience.
Focus on wood.
Wood. Okay. Yeah, I think, there is a market for both, but in our experience, it's been more lucrative from the international market. And we've found as well that particular market doesn't fuss about driving 3-4 hours to go to something, whereas probably domestic market, I would struggle to go to Edinburgh and back on the same day. That's only a few hours.
Yeah, Cherie, I just wondered, something you said really resonated with me. When you looked at how you were delivering your tours, you did sit up, look around, understand where your potential visitors might be staying, the timings around them moving on to whether that's a wine tour. Has that been an important part for you in actually seeing how you fit with the journey patterns and the other tourism providers?
Yeah, absolutely. Understanding where you are in the world, absolutely. See what your neighbours are up to, seeing what traffic they're seeing, and then trying to piggyback off that a little bit, especially when you're first starting. That is actually how I started, was absolutely by doing that.
Yeah, see what itineraries people are on. You may be at the end of a track, but if that's an offshoot for them on the way somewhere else, especially if that's around a bigger, we have Stirling Castle near us and we're just 15 miles from there. So it's you do your tourist thing and then you do your authentic on the farm thing, and that can sometimes balance really well on a sort of itinerary. Any other questions there, Leckie?
Hello, I'm Dave Lamy. I'm from South Carolina in the United States, and I'm also a French citizen. I'm a dual citizen. I married a French woman 30 years ago. And so I've been looking at the systems that we have in Europe with the geographic indication systems. It sounds like Quebec has something that's modeled after that. I know that in the United States, really to the detriment of small farmers that are trying to do something really unique and interesting and high quality with food products and agricultural products, we don't have the same kind of policy regimes in the United States that allows for geographic indication systems like they have in Europe. It's actually against foreign trade policy for us to do that. There was an effort mounted several years ago to try to do that, and it was not allowed. So I'm wondering about the example of Quebec within the Canadian system, and I wonder if any of the other provinces have seen what Quebec is doing and have been making demands in Ottawa to do something similar within their provinces. So is Quebec kind of the tip of the spear, perhaps, within the Canadian context to see more of a European GI type system across all of Canada eventually? and then we can copy it down in the United States, perhaps.
Thanks, Dave. Great question.
Yeah, very good question. Thank you. Is it okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, we hope so. Maybe Quebec will be a pioneer because it's a provincial law, so it's very specific in Canada, maybe also in United States. You could answer the question, but for this type of property tool, there is a provincial aspect and a federal aspect. So here we have a law in Quebec. Other provinces doesn't have, but they could also maybe register through the federal government through Trademark Act if in their province they have such act. So for wines, it's more developed in Ontario and also in Atlantic Province and in BC, also in British Columbia. Time to time, some Ontario producers, Ontario scholars, or maybe some other interested people want to foster their government or their community to do something else or something different with also a certification, an independent certification, which is a step forward. So we will see. Now, just now, it's a bit it's a good announce. The federal government is open its trademark law. Maybe to review a bit and to review about geographical indication and to include geographical indication and products from native nations. So it's very interesting. So we will see how it maybe flow a bit in Quebec or in other provinces.
But I mean, there's so much potential with collaboration, isn't there?
Yeah.
It just unfortunately takes exponentially longer to deliver than doing something on yourself. But, you know, the opportunity for growth and working together is a really strong one. I'm conscious of the time. We have time for one more question before we finish up. If there is something, we've got one down there with Lindsay.
Hi, Lindsay Robertson. I'm based over on the Outer Hebrides. I suppose it's a question more for Cherie and Jillian. You touched on online sales, and I suppose it's how you keep that lifelong consumer after they've actually been on farm. Do you both find that you are successful in that, or is it something that you're working on? Any feedback there at all?
You might be a bit more successful at this than me. So part of the reason I'm so passionate about tourism is that people don't know the farm stories, right? So the natural progression of going to the farm is understanding what is the value add to a Jillian customer by seeing the farm. I don't know. And what a shame. And that is because the powers that be have not put that in place yet. But I believe that we have recruited what we call F2 or F3 customer, which they'll spend again and again. We hear that, but we don't have the data on that. So I'm pushing that up the food chain to get the powers to be to put that in play. Hopefully you've got a more positive spin on it.
Yeah, I think, it just harks back to building that community. So obviously once the visitor's been, they've got that emotional connection to what you're doing. And then it's just making sure you capture the opportunity with follow-up. So, you know, obviously asking them for a customer review personally, and then that's your kind of first port of call. Then, you know, subscribing to your mailing list, and, you know, they want to continue following your journey and your story. So making time, if you don't have time yourself, getting, you know, contract that out for somebody to write a monthly newsletter just to keep them in the loop. And you're always surprised, you know, they might not buy again from you, you know, in a month's time, but 6 months' time or a year's time, they'll purchase from you. So it's just that continual communication and update and keeping them on part of the story with you.
Could you put your hands together to thank our great panel of speakers this afternoon.